Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for a very, very special episode of the latest Chelsea transfer news. Now, we could have also never picked a better day for this because the last 2-3 days have been absolutely insane in terms of Chelsea transfer news, even though myself, Pies, and as you can see, Nathan Gissing have actually sorted this stream out for today a week ago or so. But hey, you know, the luck's been on our side, shall I say. Obviously, it is Nathan's second time on the channel, so I very much appreciate you coming on again, Nathan. Now, first of all, how you been? Obviously, a busy summer for you, I'm sure. But yeah, a lot going on at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, it's been crazy, especially this week. It's been non-stop, but I expect it to get busier.
Hey, we hope so. We hope so. I mean, if all the links we have at the moment do come true, then we have a lot to get through. We have a lot to get through. Before I get to Pies, we also already have 316 people here, which I very much appreciate. So, ladies and gentlemen, please smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. But, Pies, first of all, thank you for sorting this out once again. And secondly, it's a very exciting week at the moment. Like, as much as we were all a little bit down over the last few weeks, we're like, losing out on Koundé, losing out on Rafinha a few weeks ago, of course. And then last week, kind of not really knowing who we're going to go for now. Then obviously the Fofana link started to pick up a little bit, but the last few days have been quite crazy. So has that changed your mood again a little bit, Pice? Or how do you feel about Chelsea at the moment compared to last week?
Well, it's always nice when, Chelsea are busy and actually doing stuff or in negotiations. It's better to hear news than have no news, because then you're like, what's going on? Why is there no news? But negotiations for several players. It seems like Todd Boehly this summer has been, not just working on one deal at a time. Obviously, there's been, Ben Barkley maybe involved in some negotiations and stuff as well. Rumors of that. So, this week's definitely been really busy over the weekend as well. We had a lot of news, but I kind of expected this, that sort of last week before Everton, you want to try and get one or two players in, even if they won't obviously play against Everton. You can register them, and obviously the main one at the moment is Cucurella. So hopefully that gets done soon, because it's been a bit annoying the last sort of day. Never simple with Chelsea for some reason.
That is very true. That is very true. Before we get into the details of players talking about ins and outs, I do actually want to start with a slightly different question for you, Nathan, because we are linked to so many players, right? We've already signed 3. We're linked to players like Benjamin Šeško, De Jong, Cucurella, like Fofana. It's crazy. Obviously, we signed Slonina, the American goalkeeper, as well. Do we, if we sign all of these players, we're talking like 300 million, if not more. Is that realistic? Because are we not somewhat limited by financial fair play to some extent, or just the budget that we have full stop? Or do you think theoretically, if we were to agree deals with all of these clubs, we could actually sign all of them?
Yeah, we could all sign all of them, but it's important to balance the books. So we're looking at offloading players, of course, that are on high wages, like Timo Verna, Batshuayi, Ross Barkley, etc. If you add all these up, they're on 1 million a week. You're saving 1 million a week if you offload them. But yeah, it's possible, but we need to balance the books, of course, and offload players.
There you go. But he says it's possible. So, guys, it's time to be excited. But let's actually get into the players. Like we just discussed this off air. This is not Nathan's speciality, but we need to talk about him because Chelsea have actually signed the kid. Carney Chukwuemeka is how I'm going to attempt at pronouncing his name. Hope I didn't butcher it. If you see this, Carney, I'm sorry. He is actually born in Austria. So even though he's not an Austrian citizen, kind of a countryman of mine. So big up yourself, mate. I'm excited. £20 million. Never heard of him until 2 days ago. I can't lie. But we paid £20 million for him, or 15 million plus add-ons. I feel like there have been differing reports. You can answer that in a second, Nathan, if you know any more on that. But yeah, there have been a few reports that say he will be in the first team squad. You'd think so when you sign someone at 18 for £20 million. At the same time, you could also say, okay, give him one loan and then bring him back. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Everyone that knows about him and everyone that knows about young English players seems to be hyping him from here till, well, not even the moon, to bloody Mars. So it's exciting in that sense. Before I get to you on that, Nathan, Pice, you excited about that? I'll ask you an honest question. Did you know much, if anything, about him until more than 3 days ago? Because I can't lie, I didn't. Even though he played against us, which I found out since, but didn't realize at the time.
I mean, I actually did, because one of my mates is a Villa fan. So, yeah, I remember him playing. I got tickets to the, was it Carabao Cup? I think it was Carabao Cup last season when we played them at home. think we won on penalties. And yeah, he played in that game and he was good. And when the news came out, my Villa mate was like what on it? Like he was upset he left, of course, but he was really happy with the fee because apparently he could have left for free in January or something, but Chelsea decided to pay it now to be off competition. So he was happy with the fee, but he said, yeah, he's a very, very good player, like an excellent midfielder for his age.
There you go. I mean, as myself and Nathan just discussed before we went live, because of the transfer fee, you'd think he's going to be in the squad. And that's what's being reported. I can't remember who reported it, but a few sources have reported that the plan is for him to be in the first team squad. But we obviously have quite a stacked midfield as it is. Now, again, I'm not an expert on him, so my information in terms of where exactly does he play, it comes from like Transfer Market, where it says central midfield and also a little bit of attacking midfield. But we have Mateo Kovacic, N'Golo Kante, Jorginho, Conor Gallagher, theoretically still Ruben Loftus-Cheek and even Ross Barkley, but Ross Barkley does hopefully look like he's on his way out, even though Ruben probably won't be just because he won't want to, but that's a different question. But now is the question, how does he play? Right? How many games will he play? Because, yeah, people will say, 5 subs. That's all well and good, but we still only have 2 midfielders. Even if you have 5 subs, can't sub all of them. You're not going to use all of them in the same game if you only play 2 on average. So, Nathan, even if you don't know in detail, you can also obviously happily give your opinion on it. Do you think he will get a lot of game time, or do you think this will be a situation of he will play some early cup rounds and then maybe get subbed on when games are done? Or do you think as the more the season progresses, he could play a bigger and bigger role and genuinely already be almost a year in advance potential replacement for like a Kante or Jorginho whose contracts run out next summer? Of course, we might extend them. Who knows? Don't know if you know, but I don't know. Do you see it as already an early replacement, or do you think it's just strengthening the squad already as it is?
I see Chukwuemeka more of a squad player. I see, he's obviously a good talent. 20 million, you think he's going to be part of the squad. But say if an offer comes in from the Premier League or an exciting offer, then maybe Chelsea accept it as a loan. But yeah, 20 million, you think he could be part of the squad. I've spoken to some people about him, and he's more of a Loftus-Cheek player. He's quite dynamic, strong. So he could play an 8 role. So yeah, someone like he's like Loftus-Cheek a bit. So, and I did report the other day that they've discussed about using Loftus-Cheek in a Fofana deal. So maybe something there. Maybe that's going to be an interesting one. So has that in your, as far as your information goes, has that not changed? Because obviously, without trying to play people against each other now, obviously you posted that, and then I think it was Matt Law, I don't know, a few hours later or the next day, they said as far as he's aware, Ruben wants to stay. Is that the case that Ruben just wants to stay, but Chelsea want to get rid of him and try to use him in something, or what kind of information do you have on that sense? Yeah, he's happy to stay. He's happy to stay and fight for his place. He rejected offers in January from Juventus, for example, because he wants to stay and fight for his place. But Chelsea have discussed internally about using him in a swap deal with Fofana. But obviously, you've got to have the players' agreement on wanting to go to Leicester, and Leicester are also interested. So this is why they've discussed him internally as a player they could use. But as well, swap deals are never easy to do. So I do see it being difficult, but because you've got to have the yes from all parties. So Chelsea say yes, Leicester say yes, but Ruben's happy to stay and fight for his place at Chelsea.
There you go. Now, just on a last bit on that Ruben Loftus-Cheek topic, if he does then stay, does that change which players we potentially go for? Because obviously now in this last preseason game, he was deployed as a right wing back again, as he was against Real Madrid and Southampton towards the end of last season. Now, if he stays, does that make it less likely that we'll sign a right wing back up and just use him? Or does that not really have anything to do with it?
I don't think so. I was told before he played that, because he was good against Udinese. I thought he was really good in that right wing back role. I was actually told before that he was internally discussed. So unless they've changed their mind, then I'm not sure. But I don't think so after one friendly. But no, they're looking at Denzel Dumfries. He's the main target, and Kyle Walker-Peters is another option. But yeah, Dumfries is still the main target. But Inter don't want to sell him, so we'll see what happens there.
That's going to be an interesting one. I mean, a lot of people, what people really seem to want to know is about Cucurella. So we'll get to him. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if you have any other questions that I or Pice might not pose to Nathan, please use the super chat function to put them in the chat, because I can't see every other question. Otherwise, that's impossible. So use the super chat function and we will pose those questions to Nathan if you have any interesting ones. But yeah, let's just get to Cucurella, because seemingly that's what everyone really wants to know about. So I just put it plainly to you. I'll add more questions later on if necessary, but just what's the latest really? Because I feel like there's, again, slightly confusing reports. So as far as you're aware, what is the latest? What is the current situation?
Well, Chelsea since last week have had the plan to use Colwill in a swap deal for Cucurella, but only for a loan, where Brighton want a permanent in. So this is the thing. This is the uphold, but I still see the deal going ahead with Cucurella, because Chelsea have offered 50 million plus. But yeah, this is the case here. Chelsea only want a loan in the deal here, where they want a permanent. But I don't feel there's much of a problem, to be honest, because I still think Colwill will be in a separate deal. I was told about a permanent deal with a buyback. So I still see it happening. I don't think there's too much to worry about, to be honest.
Fair enough. Two small follow-up questions. Number one, 50 million plus. Now, what are we talking here? Does that mean like 50 million and 600,000, or does that mean like 53 million? Like, what are we talking here when it says that plus?
Something around 50 million mark. Bit more, but something around that. I can't tell you for exact, but it's something around that.
I hear that.
Yeah.
Fair. In terms of Colwill then, so you think it as a separate deal, but then do you still think we might be able to convince them to just get him on loan? Or do you think if he does go there now, it will be permanent with a buyback clause?
Yeah, this is another thing as well, because they don't really want a buyback. They could accept a first refusal or a sell-on clause. They could accept that, but they don't want a buyback on him. Maybe they could agree to buy him back 2 years later, like they had with Livramento. So we got a buyback option on him next summer. So maybe it could be something like that. But I'm sure Cole will be used in a separate deal. It was discussed in a swap deal, but Chelsea prefer the money up front, Brighton.
That makes sense, I suppose. But one last question, which I haven't really seen anyone talk about. Does Colwill want to go to Brighton?
Yeah, he's happy to go to Brighton. I mean, Tuchel's willing to let him leave there. Hence why he was discussed in the deal. As long as Colwill's playing regularly, he's going to be happy. Okay, he needs to be playing regularly at his age. He's young. He needs to be expressing his talent. It's no good him being just sat on the bench wasting it. So yeah.
That is very true. Now, Pice, just so I don't have you sat there not saying anything, especially where we can't see your face. What's your thoughts on that? Now, onto what Nathan said with Cucurella, that Colwill will hopefully not be the final stumbling block, and we just get it done, because I honestly can't handle another transfer that we all think, oh, this could happen, whether it was Koundé or whether it was, well, Rafinha, we were never as confident, but for a day we were when the news came out. Agreed a fee with Leeds, and everyone was like, oh, gassed, and then we lost that. I can't handle another one of those. So please, Chelsea, make it happen for the love of God. But Pice, you positive that we're going to get it done?
I think the longer it goes on, the less positive I'll be. What we have found out, though, is that Chelsea do like to leave bids in. So, I mean, Brighton are going to surely want a resolution fast. I mean, that only makes sense. The Premier League season is starting soon. Potentially, it's being held up a little bit by maybe Brighton want replacements. I don't know. But at the end of the day, they wanted 50 million from Man City with bid 50 million. Some even reporting in excess of 50 million. And it seems like they've not answered us yet. So I was expecting a here we go yesterday. I messaged Nathan. I was like what's going on? You was like, relax. I was like, no, I don't want to relax. It was like, what's going on here? Like, why haven't they? I was expecting it to be yesterday. Today, there's been nothing yet, but I know obviously they've been talking. So, just got to wait and find out the next news that comes out, I guess. But I can't. I'm kind of on the fence at the moment. Whereas 2 days ago, I was like, yeah, it's done. Nice. So great.
Yeah, it is a bit of a rough one at the moment. But hey, let's hope we get it done very, very soon, because the sooner the better. I mean, one thing I wanted to discuss, because there was a lot of people that lost their minds a little bit when the news came out today. They didn't immediately accept that £50 million offer, which we apparently made last night. And then people were like, well, why are they changing the goalpost? That's apparently what they wanted from Man City. Now, Nathan, number one, did they even change the goalpost? And number two, if they did, does that just have anything to do with the fact that it's now much closer to the start of the season? And the closer to the start of the season you try to sign players from teams, they will probably ask more money because they have less time to find replacements themselves before the season starts, which would be my only logical explanation for why they would all of a sudden want a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. They just need a replacement. That's the situation here. That's why they want Colwill in the deal. You know, so they have that replacement for the Premier League game this weekend for their first game. But Cucurella doesn't want to be there, so it's really, they just need to find a replacement basically. But Chelsea are keen to give them Colwill, but only on a loan in a swap deal. But they're keen to do a separate deal where they offer him a permanent and a buyback. So it's really just to find them getting a replacement as soon as possible. That's really just what's holding the deal up, really.
Fair play. Now, I did read that Cucurella is currently in Spain. Has he been in Spain all summer, or has he done pre-season with Brighton until very recently? Are you aware of that by any chance?
I'm not sure. I knew his agent was in Spain.
He might not even be in Spain. I just read it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know the agent has been in Spain in the last days, but he might have been with him. I'm not sure. It would make sense if he is, because they're both in the deal, negotiating. But yeah, I'm not exactly entirely sure.
There you go. Although I do find it weird, whether you want to leave or not, it's a week before the season starts. Why are you not with your club?
Yeah, you still train with them. You still respect them, don't you? Yeah.
Also, I think Fabrizio said right that Cucurella was pushing. You'd think if he was actually at Brighton, you could push even more. Meet the club directors and things like that. Go in their office. So if he is in Spain, that is, for me, makes it a little bit more difficult at least.
Yeah.
Should we go on to the next topic, Laurenz?
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So okay, let's ask you about De Jong, Nathan, because obviously this one come up this morning. David Ornstein said we've started talks. Obviously, you posted something earlier as well around it. So what's your current understanding on the situation? Chelsea going to try and hijack the 50th deal this summer, or what?
No, they're really interested. I was told yesterday they're negotiating with Barcelona for Frenkie de Jong. So really 85 million with add-ons is what they want.
Is that euros?
Yeah, that's euros. That's euros. Don't know if Chelsea want to pay that high. I'm not sure. It's quite a lot of money. Maybe they can negotiate it down. But at the end of the day, Frankie's preference is to stay in Barcelona. So it's another one of those situations. But we have to see. If they want to get Bernardo Silva, they have to sell Frenkie de Jong. But they're confident they can do something, because Todd Boehly, he's the guy behind the deal. He's the guy that really wants the deal. Tuchel said yes, he's given his approval to the deal. He likes him, but he's not seen as a priority right now. They see Cucurella and Fofana and the sort of defence out first as priority. That's what Tuchel thinks.
That is interesting, though, isn't it? Because obviously we're all aware that Todd Boehly isn't exactly a football expert just yet. It might be in a few years. Who knows? The guy's working as hard as anyone can, so he will know his shit in a few years' time. But for the time being, he's probably not the biggest expert. So why has it come to a situation where he is the one? Like, I would quite like De Jong. He, like you said, he did ask Tuchel, like, "Are you okay with this?" And he is, so that's great. But how has it come to the situation where he's the one pushing it? Has he just enjoyed his meal in Barcelona that much? Or,
I guess so. I mean, he did meet the president and the owners in Barcelona, so maybe they got a good relationship there. They built a relationship, and obviously De Jong was discussed. But yeah, like Koundé, he was driven by Boehly and his team. So it's really just if Boehly says, "Do you want this player?" Tuchel and says yes, approves it, then he'll push for it. But it's a bit of both, really. They kind of have the yes and they both have a say in it.
There you go. It is an interesting one, but you still maintain that De Jong would rather stay at Barcelona than also move to Chelsea, because we all know he doesn't really want to go to United, and he apparently wants us a bit more than United, but still would prefer to stay. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's his preference is to stay at Barcelona, but he's going to have to try maybe take a wage cut, which obviously he doesn't really want to do. And if they want to buy Bernardo Silva, they have to get rid of him.
So if then he was to go somewhere else, right? Would whoever that new club is be expected to somewhat match his current wages at Barcelona? Or do you think he would? Because if he wants to stay, he has to take a wage cut anyway. So that puts whoever the new club is in a bit of a, the pole position, I guess, to also force him to not quite go as high, because his current, his base wages at Barcelona are quite high. And that, if anything, in my opinion, would probably be the biggest stumbling block even if we convince him to join us. If we then have to offer him the same wages he's on at Barcelona, I don't really see us doing that.
Yeah, personal terms, they could be a little bit of a problem, because one, his preference is to stay, two, his wages are high. But as we know, Chelsea like to give out good wages to players. We see it with our attackers. Chelsea like. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Chelsea are negotiating with Barcelona for De Jong. They're in talks.
There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, by the way, if the chat is going a bit mad, I do apologize. Half of my mods seem to not be here today. I don't know where they are. Where you at, Clutch? Come on, just because you're not on stream doesn't mean you can't be a mod. I'm trying, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't just get offended by the chat. But still 620 of you here, so smash the like button and subscribe, please. That would be phenomenal. But yeah, why don't we move on to the next topic? Now, someone I want to talk about, and especially because I just saw someone in the chat, fits the whole situation even better. And I saw someone asking in the chat earlier, do we have, because before we get to Fofana, which is the other big name, let's get someone in there who maybe people don't know as much about and aren't as aware of the situation. Now, we want to get rid of Timo Werner. We already got rid of Romelu Lukaku. Even though it looks like we're keeping Broja, we seem to still be interested in Benjamin Šeško, which is how I'm told he's pronounced. Šeško, whatever. From RB Salzburg. According to Fabrizio Romano earlier, there's 3 clubs interested. That is ourselves, Manchester United, and someone else. Now, I'm not telling Nathan whether he knows. I have heard that's Milan. Who knows whether that's true? But what do you know of that? Because he's a huge talent. Now, his numbers from last season are good, but nothing outrageous. But he scored more goals already this preseason than he did in all of last season, which is a bit mad. So certainly on a trajectory upwards. But do you see a potential of us getting him?
I haven't really been told anything concrete on Šeško. I've been told more on maybe Ronaldo, late move for Ronaldo. I've been told more on that. So yeah, for now, Broja stays. For now, Broja is staying at Chelsea. But Chelsea could look at a late move for Ronaldo. So yeah. And if Ronaldo comes, maybe Broja goes. But yeah, I've been told more about Ronaldo, a late move for Ronaldo.
That is interesting, because obviously we were told a few weeks ago that Thomas Tuchel has basically decided against Ronaldo. Now, if we were to change our opinion on that, would that be Tuchel changing his mind just because we can't seem to be getting any other forwards? Or is it a case of after this preseason, he's like, well, these forwards I have are not good enough, so I need something. Is that why we're coming to this? Or is it a case of that Ronaldo's getting so desperate that his wage demands are dropping so drastically that we might consider it?
Yeah, bit of whatever, everything you just said there, probably a bit of everything. So yeah, Chelsea, I'm not saying they will go for it, but they are considering they might do it. They might do a late move for Ronaldo. And
interesting.
1 year, as he's available, he wants to leave. Why not? And as you said, has it been that good, goal scoring wise in pre-season? I don't see, why not go for it?
If we're just going my opinion, I know Pies, I'm not sure. Do you kind of agree? I'm sure we've all seen the whole outfall now of Man United, where apparently Ronaldo left early after their friendly, and now Ten Hag's given an interview in which he shat on all of these players. Like, that's why I'm a bit concerned about Ronaldo, because I'm like, it's pre-season and they're losing their shit with him. Like, imagine the drama.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just gonna say though, whatever my thoughts on Ronaldo, though, Nathan, like you said, Chelsea, Chelsea considering the late move,
Yeah.
but Tuchel has to give the green light. Do you think he'll give that late on? Like, have you been told anything? Because for me, it doesn't. Like everything
I,
in this window doesn't happen without Tuchel's green light. So it's a weird one. But like back in back of my head for weeks, I've been thinking about a late move for Ronaldo because I can just see Tuchel eventually giving in. But I'm not sure. Like even
mm,
last season, he was bigging him up after we played Man United. Of course, he was like any coach would, dream to work with Ronaldo, things like that. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't seem like he wants him this summer. But yeah,
and I've been. I think Tuchel would approve the move. They are both of them are considering. As Chelsea as a whole, they're considering a late move for him. So Tuchel obviously is up for it earlier on, but he would approve it. Boehly, of course. So yeah, as a whole, Chelsea are considering a late move for Ronaldo.
That
fair
is
enough.
interesting. I mean, we'll see how the rest of the window goes. I suppose. I
We'll see.
assume.
I'm not saying that they will, but they might.
Yeah.
That's what I've been told. They might.
I get you. Especially, we would definitely want to sort out defense issues, wing back issues.
Yeah.
First, anyway. So before we get to that, but we do have a super chat by Christian Doyle. Appreciate it very much. He asked any interest in Wilfried Zaha from Crystal Palace. Do you know of any of that, Nathan?
I haven't been told anything on Zaha. Haven't been told anything on rumours of Zaha. So yeah, nothing as of now. But maybe if I get something, there could be. Obviously, anything's possible, but nothing. I haven't been told anything now.
There you go. Unfortunately, Christian, no interest as of now.
Sorry.
It seems, but hey, it is what it is. Now, it seems like where was it? Let me just go find that because just saw it on my screen a minute ago. According to Jacob Steinberg, Chelsea hold a tentative interest in Barca's Memphis Depay. Now, Nathan, number one, do you know anything about that? And the second thing, whether you know anything about that, is I read, again, can't remember the source. I do apologize. I should sometimes remember sources more than I do. But I read that there's some talk of Barcelona and Depay just terminating his contract, which could theoretically make him a free agent, which in my opinion makes him a much more viable option because none of us really want to give Barcelona a penny. So if he becomes a free agent, that's much more interesting. But are you aware at all of any interest in him? I mean, you heard about a potential late move for Ronaldo, so that doesn't exactly scream the pie. But...
Yeah, I haven't. No, I haven't. I haven't been told anything. But I could check in later on with my sources, and they might have it. But as of now, I haven't been told anything on the pie. Just Ronaldo. But I mean, I've seen Vardy rumours as well. There's been Vardy rumours. I was actually speaking to an agent on the phone. What was it? June, early July. Not the agent of Vardy, but he told me Chelsea were interested in Vardy. And I've seen rumours come out the last week or so about it. But I haven't been told anything, when I tried to confirm it with sources at the club. But yeah, I think there could be something there. But I've just been told Ronaldo, late move for Ronaldo.
It's an interesting one. It's a very interesting one. Pies, yeah. What about you? Now, if Depay was to be available on a free, and Jamie Vardy and Ronaldo, now out of those three, I'll just ask you this random question because those are the three names we just mentioned. What would be your choice out of that? Because personally, again, kill me, but I'd probably pick Depay of those, especially as a free agent.
Yeah, no, I'd probably pick Depay as well. I think as well, I'm not sure if this was true, but I think Fabrizio said his agent is filing for free agency, right? So pretty sure he'd actually be on a free instead of sort of 10 to 15 million euros or pounds, which they wanted. He's younger than both of them. I think Vardy's 35. I mean, I love Vardy, by the way. I just don't think he'd suit our system. Whereas Depay, he's a false nine. He can play in multiple positions as well. I just think he'd suit us more better. Ronaldo, I'm not sure. I think Ronaldo might come and ruin everything, to be honest with you. But again, it's Ronaldo. He's going to score goals. So if that comes to it, at the time we have to have a big discussion on that. And obviously, if Tuchel was to approve Ronaldo and he got it horribly wrong, then we know who to blame. So whereas last summer we didn't really know who to blame for Lukaku, it was a bit of everything, wasn't it? But this summer, as with every target, to be honest with you, it's clear that Tuchel is approving everything. So, the signings that go wrong, of course, it's not all on the manager, but he's approving these guys. So yeah, I would probably pick Depay. Just in terms of the overall fit.
I would agree. I would agree with Amit's order here of Depay, Ronaldo, and Vardy in that order for me personally. I mean, I would just find it quite funny if we just left Ronaldo at United because seemingly no one else wants him, right? So, but basically just leave Ronaldo there, kind of that itself takes United out of a top 4 race, really, because there's going to be so much drama and a shit show going on that makes us getting top 4 a bit easier. Then if we take Ronaldo away from them, they don't have that drama going on anymore. Maybe it makes it easier for them to get top 4. I don't know. But hey, at the same time, if, like Nathan says, if Tuchel is for it, even though that is another situation where Tuchel apparently would have changed his mind, which I'm not a fan of. Tuchel, please stop changing your mind. Have an opinion, stick to it, please. Not like Koundé and, I'm not a fan. Just leave that. Actually, Nathan, now that I have you, even though Koundé is long gone, do you happen to know how exactly all of this came about? Because apparently Tuchel was not a fan. It's like, a bit tentative and everything. And then it was the news came out. It was mostly a Marina Granovskaya target rather than the Tuchel target. And then we made a bid anyway. So does that mean Tuchel changed his mind, or how did that even get to that?
I think I was first to say on the club it was more the club pushing the move for Koundé than Tuchel. It was basically just working the way down the list. We had the targets were De Ligt, Ake, Kimpembe, Koulibaly. These 4 were all in front of Koundé as a target. Obviously we got Koulibaly. We failed on the others, but we'll have for now. You never say never. But yeah, for Koundé, it was more of a club target. It was Boehly driving the deal, but Tuchel did approve it. So he wasn't a Tuchel priority target, but as we've lost out on the others, Tuchel did approve it in the end. But the player, he just wanted Barcelona. He was happy to join, but I don't think Tuchel did enough because for me, if I'm not feeling that love, if Xavi wants me more than Tuchel, if a coach wants me more than the other coach, then I'm going to consider going to the other club more. I don't know about you.
One of these coaches tells me I have to play right wing back, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's a problem in and of itself. Now, again, before we get to Fofana, sorry guys, I'm just gonna keep things interesting and keep the retention going. Another thing I would like to talk about is outgoings, because there's a lot of players that will hopefully be outgoing right now. And I'll start that with an incoming by talking about Slonina, the American goalkeeper that we signed from Chicago Fire, where he's going back on loan until January. So that makes it clear he's not a Kepa replacement. But Kepa might leave to Napoli. Do you see that as a likely thing to happen at this point?
Yeah. A straight loan deal. Then Kepa wants to be playing regularly. He's at that age where he needs to be playing regularly. He probably, he feels he wants to get back in the Spanish team with the World Cup coming up. He just needs to be playing regularly as a number 1. For now, I haven't heard any targets of who we could get. But hopefully, when that Kepa deal is done, hopefully I can get something more on that. But for now, I haven't heard anything more.
Yeah, because we definitely don't want Bettinelli as a second choice goalkeeper, I would say. I mean, he seems like a lovely chap, but it's like with what's his face. I forgot his first name now. Green. What's Green's first name?
Green.
Hero of Baku.
Who?
Rob Green.
Rob Green. Yeah, like him. We wouldn't want him as a backup keeper either. Do you know what I mean? You're fine as the third choice, but that's the end of it. But fair enough. Lastly, on that Kepa thing, do you know? I've read that we would apparently be covering 75% of his wages. Is that true? Because I feel like if it's 75% of his wages, I know he wants to play again, and he's been very professional and everything. Yeah. But at 70% of his wages, surely just keep it. Because what's the point then? Like for 25%, is that worth it?
Yeah, that is the situation because Napoli, like Serie A clubs, they don't have a lot of money. They don't. I think the TV rights at the Premier League are higher at the bottom than at the top in Serie A. Yeah. So they don't have much money. But again, it's more down to the player as well. You've got to go by the player's wish. He wants to go. He wants to play regularly. He wants to be number 1 ahead of the World Cup. So yeah, it was more down, for Kepa pushing the move as well.
Fair enough. Now, as we're talking about players outgoing to Italy. Maybe we should mention Ethan Ampadu. There was a report last night that he might be on his way to Spezia or La Spezia. I think La Spezia is just the city and Spezia is the club. Is that on the verge of being completed, and would that then be a permanent or a loan move? Are you aware of that by any chance?
Yeah, they're in talks. It would be another loan, but it did surprise me when I saw the news, because Tuchel was impressed with Ampadu in pre-season. He's versatile as well. He can play both defence and midfield. Plus, we're looking at getting rid of Malang Sarr as well. Levi Colwill. So maybe Chelsea need to hold at least one deal for now. Fofana. If we can get Fofana and Cucurella over the line, then maybe let them three go. But yeah, that's the situation.
That's an interesting one. You mentioned Malang Sarr there. Seems like we've somewhat agreed a deal for him to be on loan to Monaco with an option to buy for them. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the basis. A loan with an option to buy. I saw like there was a full agreement. Yes, last night I saw a rumor, but I checked in and there's no full agreement yet. They're still talking, still negotiating, but the basis is a loan with an option to buy. We just got to see what fee they agree on.
There you go. Is that a situation of an option to buy just because Monaco they don't want to afford him right now? Or is it more of a situation, let's see how good he is and then decide on whether we want to buy him? Because I feel like on options to buy, there's always two reasons. Either they're not sure whether they want to buy him yet, or they can't afford him yet, and that's why they do a loan first and then an option to buy. So if you happen to know, what situation of those two is it for Sarr?
I don't exactly know why, but it makes a bit of sense what you just said there. A bit of both, really. Looking how good he is and stuff, seeing if he's good or not, or their financial situation. But yeah, that's the situation. He's expected to go. It's just a matter of when, really.
There you go. Now we also have three players that, as far as I'm aware, at least, have been linked to leaving to Everton, and that's not even mentioning Broja yet, right? Because there's Michy Batshuayi, Billy Gilmour, and I'm forgetting one now. Who's the other one?
Ross
Barkley. There you go. All three of those are apparently potentially going to Everton. Now, do you think all three of them could actually be going to Everton?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Ross Barkley. I don't think there's much interest there in Ross Barkley and Everton.
Okay.
For Gilmour, Tuchel, Lampard likes him, so that could be an option for sure. Batshuayi, yes, there's interest, but I don't think it's anything close right now. But we'll see what happens. That's the situation.
So now that you say Everton are not interested in Ross Barkley, is anyone interested in Ross Barkley? And is there even a chance that we get rid of him, or does no one want him and we sit there with him for another season?
Newcastle showing some interest. It's more the agent trying to get him out of the club. But his wages are crazy. Like, as a personal opinion, I would probably just terminate his contract, like as we've seen with Juventus doing with Ramsey, with Depay maybe with Barcelona. But we'll see what happens. But Newcastle have shown some interest because they're looking for a player in that area. So they're looking at James Maddison as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
So really what we have to do is buy Fofana, so then Leicester don't need money. They refuse to sell Maddison, and they can take, and Newcastle can have Ross Barkley. Sounds like a great deal. So Todd, get Fofana in. But still, guys, we're not talking about Fofana just yet. Because we need to talk about some left backs, because we've spoken about Cucurella as signing a new left wing back, /left back, /left centre back. But we currently have 4 at the club. Obviously, Baba Rahman, who knows what happens with him. But we also have Emerson and Marcos Alonso. Now, we all know Marcos Alonso wants to go to Barcelona. Is that happening, or is it a case of we want too much money, or will that just drag and eventually get done?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation because they're looking at other targets as well, Barcelona. They're looking at other targets.
They're not looking at Cucurella. Okay.
Yeah, they're not, which is good. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, he wants to go there, but he wouldn't be first choice because I was told earlier they still count on Jordi Alba being the first number one target.
They would be absolutely mental if they played Alonso over Jordi Alba.
But yeah, it does. They're looking at other targets now, so it does point. If the situation is kind of slowed down a bit, but we'll see what happens. I think there's a chance Azpilicueta could stay. I was told last week the club think he could stay. The club think he could stay at Chelsea. He's training well. He continues to train well. Obviously, it's not easy when you've got all that transfer noise in the background. Because Tuchel did say he might be a bit more focused, level-headed when the transfer window is shut. Because when you're keen on joining Barcelona and Chelsea don't want to sell you because Tuchel really wants to keep you, then it's hard to keep level-headed. But he's in the last week or so, he's trained really well, I'm told. So yeah.
But does that have any effect on our interest in right wing backs? Because we spoke a few minutes ago about potential of Denzel Dumfries, and if Aspie stays, does that change that? Or I'd hope we still sign a proper right wing back and use Aspie solely as a right centre back. Well, I think he's still good, but I just don't want to see him as a right wing back personally.
Yeah, that's the point here. Chelsea see him more as a right centre back. That's why we're looking at Dumfries, and even looked at Marcos Llorente earlier on in the window. Looked at him, but because he's versatile, Tuchel likes versatile players, so he could play midfield, right wing back as well.
So he's even played up top for Atletico sometimes.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's weird, but hey,
yeah,
brilliant. I'm sorry, Pies. I feel like I'm struggling to involve you more. I'm trying my hardest, so I can't remember. I swear I saw Emerson linked to somewhere. Do you remember where it was? Was it somewhere in Italy? Was it Lazio?
Lazio.
He has interest. Yeah, he has interest from Italy. But again, it's one of them where it will probably drag to the last minute because they don't have much money and stuff like this. So maybe one for later on in the window.
Could be an interesting one. Pies. Who did you mention for the right? You just put somewhere in the private chat.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about Adama Traore because, with the right wing backs, I know Chelsea, I think Matt Law said last summer, Tuchel actually had him on his list apparently. I think Wolves want, 10 to 15 million? I think he can play in the forward line, although, I'm not saying Chelsea fans would want that. I'm just saying, he can play in the forward line, he can play at right wing back. I think Kyle Walker-Peters and Dumfries are probably going to be, reportedly, 30 million plus, maybe? So I think Adama could be a cheaper one. Is there anyone else on that sort of list, Nathan, or do you expect sort of Ruben and I don't know, because Hudson-Odoi keeps playing at right wing back as well, doesn't he? So
yeah, no. Again, I've asked many times in my source. Like it does surprise me, like you say, because Traore was on the list last summer of options to play there, because Tuchel liked him. But I've asked this many times this summer about Adama, and again, there's no interest. I haven't been told of anything about that. So, yeah, that's the situation.
Maybe we just don't want to buy him some baby oil, and then we can't be buying it. You never know. It could be that. It could be that. Maybe the biggest outgoing rumor at the moment, you've touched on him earlier already, is Timo Werner. Now, do you just want to kind of talk us through on what that current situation is? Like his wages, loan potentially to RB Leipzig, but I swear he's also been linked to other clubs like Juventus, or is RB Leipzig at this point the only likely destination?
Yeah, RB Leipzig are front runners. They're still, he wants to go there. He wants to leave Chelsea. But Chelsea want to do a swap deal. This is the key here, because Chelsea, they've thrown some names around. There is a name that hasn't been mentioned that I can't say yet, but yeah.
But from Leipzig?
No, Chelsea want to do 2-in-1 basically.
Okay.
So give two players for. Maybe I'll say more in a tweet if I can. But yeah, they want us to do a swap deal.
Trust me, mate. We know sometimes it's difficult, but you want to say it, but you can't say it. I get it.
Yeah. In fact, last week the Cucurella news, I got it last Thursday, but wasn't allowed to say anything.
Is this for Werner, right? Is this for Werner? Maybe I'm understanding it a bit wrong. Wait, so you said Chelsea wanted to do two players for what deal?
for a swap deal.
With
They
Leipzig.
discussed that. Yeah, they discussed that internally.
Right.
Whether it happens, I'm really not sure. But Fabrizio did say there was a meeting on Sunday with Todd Boehly and RB Leipzig, so they probably discussed that again. But as we know, swap deals are never easy. So, yeah.
That is interesting, though, because without trying to get information out of you, me just thinking about what you said, 2 players would tell me that they can't be 2 big players. Otherwise, that would never work in a swap with just Werner, right? So that makes me think it can't be Nkunku and it can't be Gvardiol, who are both expensive, right? So that makes me think, who do they have that we'd be interested in where it could be 2 for 1? I don't know. But
yeah, two Chelsea players, two Chelsea players
two
for
Chelsea
one.
Players
two
for
Chelsea
one
players, not 2
players.
Leipzig. Yeah. 2 Chelsea players.
Bro, Todd Boehly's moving mad. What are these deals? 2 players for 1?
Yeah, that's what they discussed, but it would be hard to pull off, I reckon. My opinion, anyway.
We discussed this internally or with Leipzig?
Yeah, well, I was told it last week, so I haven't got any updates since on that. But internally, I think at the time,
fair enough.
It was a plan. I don't know if they'll go ahead with it, but yeah, it was a plan inside the club.
Why don't we go for Leipzig's? Right, I know he plays for... See, Austria has Leiner and Leimer. Leiner plays for Gladbach. Leimer plays for Leipzig. But Leiner is the right wing back. I would say, let's buy him, but he plays for Gladbach. So I'm waffling. Ignore me. Nathan, last question, outgoings. Is there any name that we haven't discussed, or maybe that I and myself and Pies are not aware that could be leaving? I don't know, because Ziyech, there's been a lot of talk of him going to Milan a few weeks ago. But I swear we haven't heard anything new on that in a while. And he's also consistently playing in preseason. I mean, so is everyone. But is anyone else still going out? Like Ziyech, like, I don't know, potentially Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic. I don't know. Is anyone else still potentially leaving that we haven't really spoken about yet?
I don't think so. But
also, the Ziyech one is dead.
For now, I think so. I think because they just signed, I can't pronounce his name, Giles something. I'm not going to try and say his name.
Charles de Ketelaere, I think.
No.
There you go. Go on, guys.
Boom. You see, I'm going to be the first one to learn the Aston Villa guy's name. I'm gonna bang it. Trust me. Gonna get it.
And I will get it done. Chukwuemeka. That's how I'm gonna go.
No idea.
So yeah, we'll see what happens because he is keen on going to Milan, but yeah, obviously we'll just see what happens. But as you know, Italian clubs are difficult. They are really difficult to do transfers with, especially when Chelsea have different demands compared to the other club. But the player recently signed for Rock Nation. He's keen on going to Milan, but again, it's just whether they can agree a fee or not.
There you go. But is the stumbling block more us than his, I don't know, personal wage demands and stuff?
I think so. I haven't been told anything in a while about Ziyech potentially leaving or not.
There you go. A couple of people in the chat have now talked about Mele, obviously the left/right wing back from Atalanta, where there was, I think Simon Johnson reported on it once, but not that much. So especially now that we're linked to Dumfries and Kyle Walker-Peters and Cucurella, like.
I haven't heard anything. Earlier on in the window, they looked at Thomas Lemar because as a wing back option and can play in attack as well because Tuchel likes his versatile players. So that was an option, but it looks like he's set to sign a new contract at Atletico Madrid. Yeah, haven't been told anything on that recently or anything.
One thing I should probably ask you, and I'm not sure how much you know about it, and it's totally fair if you don't, because I swear no one else knows much about him other than Brazilians. But Pice's new favorite target, a new favorite talent, is a kid called Endrick, who's 16 and from Brazil, has apparently scored about 160 goals in about 160 games of youth football. And since then, has won Palmeiras the league and all sorts of things. And he's 16. And apparently we're interested, but also Barcelona. Yeah. But I've also seen that he's a Real Madrid fan as a kid. So in my opinion, that makes Barcelona less likely. If you're a Real Madrid fan, you're really going to go to Barcelona? Don't know. But like, I swear by football law, we can't even sign him yet, right? So what is that? Because he's not 17 yet, and he's not played for the first national team. So don't they need at least 5 appearances to get a work visa in the UK otherwise? So how are we even linked to him? I'm a bit... Obviously, we can loan him back, I suppose, but...
Yeah, it might be one of them where we sign him and, as you said, link him, and you said, like, give him back to his club for I don't know, 2 years maybe to see him develop. But there is interest there. We'll just have to see what happens.
We will have to see what happens. And I think it's finally time we get to not maybe the most exciting, but certainly the most expensive one we've been linked to. Well, I say De Jong is about the same, but in euros. Wesley Fofana, of course, from Leicester City. Before we go into details, do you just think it's realistic? Or is this a bit more of a pipe dream because Leicester asked so much money?
I think it is realistic, but it's hard to say that when Chelsea haven't made an official bid yet. So I don't really know. But I was told they could get a deal to 70 million around there.
And is that with or without Colwill?
With Colwill? You mean I haven't been told about Colwill being discussed in a deal?
I just thought Leicester interested in Colwill, so maybe we'll try to use him in that or not. But seemingly not.
Yeah, I have. Maybe they are. But I haven't been. I've only been told off the cheek internally. It's been discussed. I haven't been told about Colwill or anything. Only with Brighton. But yeah, a deal at 70 million could do it. We'll just see what happens. That's what they hope anyway.
It would be interesting for sure. It would be interesting. Now, I hope we get that done. But
one
last question. We spoke about Šeško in terms of the forward targets. But is there any other forwards willing? So obviously, I asked you about the Depay. You said you hadn't heard anything about that. Or is it otherwise just, okay, we'll keep Havertz and Broja as our nines and then Sterling and whoever else we have as our old wingers as the forward options? Or is there anyone, of course, you mentioned Ronaldo, my apologies, you mentioned him. But is there anyone where you're like, we're looking at that now rather than a late last-ditch offer for Ronaldo?
Maybe Nkunku. So yeah, obviously I don't want to give all my news away on the potential swap deal. But yeah, maybe Nkunku. He's been discussed, but he's just signed a new contract, so I think it will be a bit difficult. But yeah, really just Nkunku and Ronaldo, I've been told recently. But Depay could terminate his contract, so you never know. But those two, I've just been told recently. Those two.
That is fair. Now, Pies, do you have any other questions, any other players that you might want to talk about or ask about?
Maybe just more about I know we was talking earlier. We was talking about formations, Nathan. Do you think the idea from Tuchel going into this window, as you see the window progressing now, is to sort of have more options to go to a four at the back? I know that the formation didn't work against Arsenal. We turned into the three at the back. Me and Laurenz always argue and discuss in our group chat about three at the back. We want to see four at the back. Even I want to see four at the back more, but I'm not as three at the back out as him and others. But do you think Tuchel wants that sort of tactical versatility with these targets, with these signings? Because for me, it almost looks like that. Like with Cucurella, that is not strictly a three at the back target. That is a four at the back target as well. De Jong is not you'd actually think De Jong's probably more of a four at the back target, in my opinion. But we have seen him use Gallagher, who is obviously an 8 at a 6 in the pivot, and De Jong has played there for Netherlands. So do you think that's the idea for Tuchel, to have these sort of options, the tactical versatility to switch? Because old Tuchel, PSG, Dortmund, he was more of a, I'm not saying he's less of a tactical manager now, but he used to switch things up more based on the opponent. And we've sort of seen that a little bit with Chelsea, but we do play a three at the back so much. So what are your thoughts and anything you've heard on based on that?
Yeah, you're right. Of course, the manager wants to have that flexibility where he can turn to four at the back and it works, and five at the back, three at the back and it works. It might be the case where I think on Saturday we'll start at three at the back, of course, because away from home, Everton, tough place to go. First game of the season. We need that three at the back for the just to be solid and calm. I think we're better away from home with the three at the back, because you always have to be. It's always important to be safe. It's always important to be defensively solid. But maybe I don't know, an easier team. Obviously, no games, not every game's not easy, of course. But maybe a Fulham could go four at the back and potentially push more for goals and potentially go for it more. But it's always important to be solid, and the three at the back is what works, because we went through a phase last season where we did concede a few goals, but yeah, having 3 at the back it makes the team solid, and I think most of the time it's the way to go.
It does definitely make it solid. My big qualm has always been we've used the 4 at the back 3-4 times last season, but didn't. Yeah, it's just I just want us. I'm not saying never use the back 3. Use the back 3 when you feel like it's necessary. But what I don't like is when we have the same problems game in, game out, how we can't score, and we don't seem to have a backup option that's not just changing from 2-1 to 1-2 in the same formation, essentially, up top. That's what I really want. This is not necessarily a question to you. I'm just adding my opinion to this. I've had a super chat earlier, which I forgot to highlight. I do apologize because we actually spoke about it like 2 minutes before you sent that super chat, Isaac. But yeah, as we discussed earlier, he is linked to a loan move to Spezia in Italy. But who knows? I mean, Nathan said, maybe calm down on selling all the defenders before we have bought any defenders. So, Chelsea take some notes. Go on.
Yeah, to your question, I haven't heard it. I think it's a little bit of interest, but nothing much. Haven't really been told anything on that recently or anything. Maybe there is. Maybe I get told something, but I haven't really been told anything on it. Sorry.
Fair dues, mate. Last topic that I'm not sure how relevant that currently is and how much of that because it's the transfer window, so there's less talk about contract extensions. But do you know anything about what Chelsea's plans are with some players? Of course, we know Mount and Reece James will eventually get new contracts, but there's also 2, at the moment, regular starters whose contracts run out at the end of this season. And unless we plan to just let them go for free, we don't want to put us in a situation like we did with Rudiger and Christensen, where we are just hoping all season long that they sign a new contract. So do you know what the situation is with Jorginho and Kante? Especially, there's been rumors today of that Juventus might go for a loan offer for Jorginho, especially now that Pogba, before ever playing a game for them, did his meniscus in. So, number one, do you see Jorginho leaving either now or next summer? Well, next summer is a different situation because I was like, Koulibaly is such good friends with Jorginho. Jorginho was half the reason why Koulibaly joined us in the first place, and Koulibaly, half the press conference today, spent talking about how much he loves Jorginho and Mendy. Yeah. So that doesn't exactly scream Jorginho wanting to go anywhere. But if Chelsea don't offer him a new contract, obviously he will have to go somewhere else. So do you know about that? And the same about N'Golo Kante? Is there any potential for a new contract for either of them?
No, Jorginho is happy at Chelsea. He's, what I've been told with summer, he's happy to stay at Chelsea. Like you said, he convinced Koulibaly to go to, basically played a key role in the deal for Koulibaly to come to Chelsea. So yeah, he's happy at Chelsea. And what his agent's been saying over the last months is correct. He's happy at Chelsea, like I said. He's settled, but 1 year left in his contract. Obviously, a decision has to be made. Can't see him go in the summer. Say if Azpilicueta left, which the feeling is still at Chelsea is he could, think he could stay. But they're 2 important leaders, Jorginho and Azpilicueta. So I can't see I can't see Tuchel selling any of his leaders, or at least one of them. I can't see that because they're really important to the team. How the team gels. I can't see that, especially when we lost Rudiger, who was key, key player, leader. So it's important to have those kind of players in the team.
There you go. But no real news of a new contract yet.
No, well, the agent said maybe in September they talk about a new contract. Haven't been, last time I checked in, there wasn't any new talks on a new contract yet. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But maybe something for after the window, because I don't think that's a priority for Chelsea right now.
And the same, I assume, applies for Kante potentially after the window.
Yeah, I feel Jorginho's future is probably a little bit more safer than Kante's. It's just a feeling. It does surprise you. When we link to Frenkie de Jong, one of the midfielders. It looks like we're planning for the long term, of course. So yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. But yeah, I can't see them going this window. I really can't. I think they'll stay.
There you go. Now, one last person that I've seen a few links about, which I forgot to mention so far, is Inter's Cesare Casadei, is how I'm going to pronounce his name. Obviously, very young central midfielder from Inter. Is that a thing that could happen now or soon, or because we seem to be signing a lot of young midfielders, especially considering we aren't looking to sell any of our midfielders. It seems very interesting that we're interested in so many midfielders.
Yeah. Chelsea are interested in signing them. They've had a bid, but it was rejected.
How high was the bid? Do you know?
About 7-8 million euros.
Okay.
So not, obviously good for a player that age. Quite a lot of money for that age. But into value him. But as you say, if Chelsea make a good offer, then it could happen. But into value him so much, they want to buy back on him. So we'll see what happens. It's a negotiation to have for sure.
There you go. And I also see Clutch is back in the chat. Welcome back, Clutch. The chat was losing their minds that there wasn't enough mod, so we're all glad you're back. But yeah, Pice, I think on my end, I've kind of covered everything that I would have loved to ask Nathan. So anything on your end that you would love to ask him still, or potentially just discuss, because we're sat here discussing things?
I think the main thing for me is obviously my personal opinion. I don't think we're going to pay for Fofana, so it's just a feeling I've got, like, especially with Frenkie. I know you said, like, you said right, you think Chelsea could spend upwards of what, 250 million. I don't think the owners are. I think we're quite good on the books. Hopefully we get some sales. But my thing is, Nathan, who do you think we're going to go for then if we don't get Fofana? Because we do need another centre back, and this is what's worrying me. Is obviously we're negotiating with Cucurella. It's Wednesday already. You'd hope Fofana maybe will pick up next week or towards the end of this week. But who do you think we'll go for if not?
Probably that double swap deal, but we can't talk too much.
Well, I know there's a player, right? I think Leipzig have a guy called Simakan. I think he's a right centre back, isn't he? So I guess that could be quite interesting. But
we'll see what happens. I haven't been told of any new name that could be potentially discussed. I see Skriniar coming up. Yeah, he could be an option. But we'll have to see what happens first with the targets before we discuss, anything like that. Because I don't know, as a feeling, I still have a bit of confidence with Fofana. Because he wants to join. He's made that very clear on his social media accounts before Chelsea have even made an official bid, which I'm quite surprised.
It is a bit crazy, but hey, it's the opposite of what happened with Rafinha. We were just, here's a bid.
Yeah. Chelsea never even spoke to Rafinha. He only had one target, and that was with Barcelona. He didn't really want Chelsea at all.
It seemed like, I don't know, Boehly was like, I have a new football club, let me make a bid.
Yeah.
That's what that one felt like.
He probably thought Barcelona's situation, as they, it's difficult. He probably thought, why not test the waters and have a go? But yeah, he only wanted Barcelona. His priority was Barca at the time, and it ever was. And yeah, he's got the move.
He did get that move. One thing, you touched on them earlier, but we didn't really go into any detail on that. And I would also, because someone mentioned, even though they said Bayer Leverkusen, but anyway, it reminded me of Bayern Munich. Right wing back situation. We mentioned Dumfries. You said we made kind of an offer, but they want more money, and Then we've also been linked to Kyle Walker-Peters. But a few weeks ago, or last week, we were also linked to Benjamin Pavard from Bayern Munich. Now, is that Pavard link gone, or was it ever real? And is it the other links? Is it just those two, Dumfries and Kyle Walker-Peters? Is there no other real links? I'm personally, I don't know about you, mate, but I would find Kyle Walker-Peters a bit silly. Number one, I think way too much money for how good Kyle Walker-Peters is. A Tottenham failure, right? We're not buying Tottenham failures for 35 million. I'm absolutely not having it at all, right? 4 assists in one game, and he's still living off that hype. I'm not having it. But especially if Dumfries costs 50 million euros, which is just 5 million more than Kyle Walker-Peters will apparently cost anyway. But are those the only real right-sided wing-back, right-back targets that we have at the moment?
I think so. I haven't been told of anything more than that. As I said, they looked at Marcus Llorente earlier on. Have Benjamin Pavard. I don't know how you say his name. Is it Benjamin Pavard? Pavard. It was more the agent. It was more the agent trying to get him somewhere. Then I wasn't really told much in Chelsea being interested in him. Well, Tuchel anyway. I was, I was surprised when I saw those rumours like flying about because I wasn't really told much on them.
There you go.
But yeah, we'll see what happens with Dumfries. We'll see what happens with Kyle Walker-Peters, because Kyle Walker-Peters can play left and right, can't he? So, as I said earlier, Tuchel likes versatile players.
But then if we sign Cucurella, do we need him to play on the left?
Yeah, good point.
So, like, until we signed the left wing back, I'm like, fair enough, the versatile. Like, when we were linked to Des, like Kyle Walker-Peters, I'm like, okay, I see it. But if we sign the left one, what's the point? I mean, Isaac mentioned Livramento here. Obviously, it's a year to go. He's also currently recovering from a torn ACL, which is, as we all know, a very bad injury. But do you happen to know, already in advance, are Chelsea planning to exercise that buyback option next year, or is that fully dependent on how he recovers from his injury?
Fully depends how he gets on this season, how he recovers, like you said. We'll just have to wait and see what the situation is, next summer. Whether he's had a good season or not, or if he has, maybe Chelsea consider it. There
you go. Aaron, big up yourself for the super chat, large up Laurenz and the boys. Thank you very much. And now just a little plug to Nathan's Instagram, basically, and his Twitter, I suppose. James asks, Nathan, will you still do the early team sheet or the early team news next year? Like, will you still be doing that? The people want to know, mate.
Yes. I should be doing it. It probably will just stick to one player, which I know people are like, why don't you do two? Why don't you do two? But you've got to stay stay what you're told. But
you essentially don't do one anyway, because we know 5 or 6 of the starters anyway. So if you don't mention any of those not starting, essentially, we know 6 or 7 of them, not just one. I always think so. I think you give the people enough. People shouldn't complain.
You always have to try and do the one that maybe people don't think starting, right, and then it catches people out. But
I always do that, but maybe I have to do the obvious approach and just say the obvious one to stop people from, getting 6 or 7 already. Or
I've ruined it for everyone. I'm sorry.
We'll see what happens. I decide when I get the team.
There you go. Now, Chelsea all the way mentioned here. I mean, that's what even more difficult to pronounce. But Achille, the Monaco centre back, there was one small link I saw like last week, 2 weeks ago. Is there anything to that?
I haven't been told anything. I've just been told, Gavardio again, but Leipzig don't want to sell him.
Todd Boehly definitely asked about him when negotiating Sarr, surely. This guy asked about everyone.
Yeah. He asked for a swap deal for everything.
Yeah, he's like, Batshuayi for Sarr, there you go. And the Monaco was like, what are you on about, mate? Are you on drugs? That's definitely what happened.
Yeah. There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a good point to leave it here. We still have 750 people watching, which I massively appreciate. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please do subscribe. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers, and there's definitely a lot of you here that haven't subscribed yet. So theoretically, if all of you subscribe right now that haven't already, we might hit 15K. So who knows? Go down below, smash that subscribe button for me. I'd very much appreciate it. And if it turns out you don't like being subscribed, then you can unsubscribe in a few weeks. But subscribe for the time being, and we'll figure that one out later. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? Smash the like button as well. Just one click of a button. Doesn't cost you any money. Barely cost you any time. And it really helps me spread these videos out to more people. But even more importantly, arguably, kind of, please do follow the links to both of my wonderful guests, Nathan's Twitter, and, that's just Nathan Gissing. The link is down in the description. And, of course, on the Instagram, you're still called CFCNewsPage, right? Or are you ever planning on changing that, or are you going to stick to CFCNewsPage there?
I think just CFCNewsPage, because I still post generic news, like all the news, and then post early team news on it.
Fair play. And of course, please, guys, do also follow Pies. Check out his website, chelseafc365.com, and of course, his Twitter as well. Pies, again, my apologies that I haven't gotten you to talk as much as I would have loved. But anything else you would like to add as your final thoughts before we round this one out here?
No, it's been a good stream. Thanks to Nathan for coming on again. And I've actually enjoyed not speaking so much because I spoke so much earlier on Gem's stream. So nice to have a little break.
There you go. We love it. And like Amit says, if you don't subscribe, we will not get Cucurella. Now, if you don't want Cucurella, subscribe anyway. But if you do want him, that's why you need to subscribe. But big shout out to Nathan for coming on. Appreciate it very much, mate.
Thank you.
Good luck for the rest of the window, because I'm sure it's a lot of work for you, especially on holiday next week.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Like I say, please do subscribe and smash the like button. But thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.